Hey, Force Fiction fans! Welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the Star Wars universe with epic original tales. Today we're dropping you into a galaxy where a young pod racer from Tatooine discovers a mysterious power, drawing the eyes of both Jedi and Sith. Expect intense battles, heart-pounding choices, and a journey that'll shake the Force itself. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell to join our crew. Let's jump to light speed, roll the story. In the vast expanse of the galaxy where stars burned with ancient secrets and the Force wove its invisible threads, the fate of worlds often hinged on moments unseen. On the desert planet of Tatooine, a boy named Anakin Skywalker toiled in obscurity, his extraordinary potential buried beneath the sands of a harsh life. In this tale, the Jedi never found him, and the galaxy's destiny veered onto a different path, one where the Chosen One remained hidden, and the shadows of the Sith grew unchecked. Tatooine's twin sons beat down mercilessly on the junk shop of Watto, a Toydarian merchant whose greed was as boundless as the dunes. Inside, a lanky teenager with sun-bleached hair and calloused hands tinkered with a salvaged droid chassis. Anakin Skywalker, now 16, had grown up in the shadow of slavery, his dreams of freedom tethered to the endless grind of scavenging and repair. His mother, Shmi, worked tirelessly beside him, her quiet strength a beacon in their bleak existence. "Anakin, focus," Shmi said softly, wiping sweat from her brow. Watto's expecting that droid by sundown. Anakin's blue eyes flicked up, a spark of defiance in them. "I'm trying, Mom, but this thing's older than the Lars homestead. It's practically fossilized." Shmi smiled, though worry lines etched her face. She knew her son was gifted. His knack for machines bordered on miraculous. Podraces, droids, even the occasional starship part. Anakin could fix anything. But she also sensed something deeper in him, a restless energy that seemed to hum beneath his skin. She'd never spoken of it, fearing it might draw attention from those who preyed on the vulnerable. As Anakin worked, his mind wandered to the stories spacers told in Mos Eisley's cantinas, tales of Jedi, lightsabers, and a galaxy beyond the Outer Rim. He'd built a pod racer in secret, racing it in the canyons when Watto wasn't looking, chasing the thrill of speed. It was his only escape, a fleeting taste of the freedom he craved. Outside, a sandstorm brewed, rattling the shop's shutters. Watto fluttered in, his wings buzzing irritably. "Boy! You done with that droid yet? Big client coming tomorrow. Hot business, no mistakes!" Anakin gritted his teeth. "Almost, Watto. It'll be ready." "It better be," Watto snapped, eyeing him. "You're lucky I keep you around, Skywalker. Don't forget who owns you." As Watto retreated, Anakin's fists clenched. He hated the word slave. One day he'd buy their freedom. One day he'd show the galaxy what he could do. Far from Tatooine, on the glittering spires of Corusaunt, the Galactic Republic teetered on the edge of chaos. The Jedi Order, guardians of peace, sensed a growing darkness in the Force. Master Yoda, his eyes heavy with centuries of wisdom, meditated in the Jedi Temple's highest chamber, seeking clarity. Beside him stood Mace Windu, his expression grim. "The Force is clouded," Yoda murmured, his ears twitching. "A shadow grows. Elusive it is." Windu nodded. "The Senate is fracturing. Trade Federation blockades, Outer Rim uprisings. Someone's orchestrating this. The Sith, perhaps." Yoda's eyes narrowed. Extinct the Sith are not. Hidden they remain. Patience we must have. Unknown to the Jedi, the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, masquerading as Senator Palpatine of Naboo, wove his intricate web. Without Anakin Skywalker's discovery, Sidious had turned to other pawns. Darth Maul, his apprentice, had survived the Battle of Naboo, his defeat of Qui-Gon Jinn, cementing his place at Sidious's side. Together they manipulated the galaxy's factions, sowing discord while the Jedi scrambled to respond. On Naboo, Queen Amidala, now a seasoned leader, navigated the Republic's political quagmire. She'd never met Anakin, never known the boy who might have changed her fate. Instead, she relied on her advisors in the Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and his new apprentice, a talented but headstrong young woman named Siri Tachi. Obi-Wan, haunted by Qui-Gon's death, had thrown himself into training Siri, hoping to honor his master's legacy. But the Force, ever unpredictable, stirred elsewhere. On Tatooine, Anakin's latent power began to manifest in ways he couldn't explain. Dreams plagued him, visions of a dark figure with a red blade, of stars falling, of his mother's anguished cries. He woke each night in a cold sweat, the air around him crackling with unseen energy. Back on Tatooine, the sandstorm passed, and Watto's client arrived, a hulking Hutt enforcer named Zero, flanked by Gamorrean guards. Anakin presented the repaired droid, its circuits humming smoothly. Zero inspected it with a critical eye, his tail twitching. "Watto, this is quality work," Zero rumbled. "The boss will be pleased. Jabba's got plans for Tatooine. Big plans. You'd do well to stay in his good graces." Watto's eyes gleamed with greed. "Anything for Jabba, Zero." "My boy here's the best mechanic in the Outer Rim." Anakin bristled at my boy, but held his tongue. Zero's gaze lingered on him, calculating. "A talented slave, eh? Jabba could use someone like you. Ever thought of racing for him?" Anakin's heart skipped. Pod racing for Jabba meant credits, maybe enough to buy freedom, but it also meant danger. Jabba's racers didn't retire, they crashed or disappeared. "I'll think about it," Anakin said, keeping his tone neutral. After Zero left, Shmi pulled Anakin aside. "Be careful, Ani. The Hutts don't offer opportunities, they offer chains." "I know, Mom," he said, but his mind raced. Racing for Jabba could be his ticket off Tatooine. He just needed one big win. That night, Anakin slipped out to the canyons where his pod racer lay hidden beneath a tarp. He fired up the engines, their roar echoing through the desert. As he sped through the twisting rock formations, the world blurred, and the Force, unknown to him, guided his hands. He felt alive, invincible, as if the stars themselves were within reach. But the Force was not his alone to wield. Far away, Darth Sidious sensed a ripple, a faint but potent disturbance. "Maul!" he hissed, his voice like ice. "Something stirs in the Outer Rim. Find it. If it is a threat, eliminate it." Maul, his yellow eyes burning with malice, bowed. "As you command, my master." Days later, Anakin's life took a turn. A mysterious spacer, a grizzled human named Cliegg Lars, visited Watto's shop, seeking parts for a moisture farm. Cliegg noticed Anakin's skill and struck up a conversation. "You've got a gift, kid," Cliegg said, tossing him a Hydra spanner. "Ever thought of working for yourself?" Anakin snorted. "Hard to do when you're owned." Cliegg's eyes softened. "I know a thing or two about how it lives. My farm's not much, but it's honest work. If you ever get free, look me up." The word stuck with Anakin. Freedom felt like a myth, but Cliegg's offer was a spark of hope. He didn't know that Cliegg had met Shmi before, that the farmer's interest wasn't just in his skills, but in the woman who raised him. Meanwhile, on Corusaunt, Obi-Wan and Ciri investigated rumors of a separatist movement in the Outer Rim. The Jedi Council suspected the Sith were involved, but proof was scarce. Obi-Wan, ever cautious, felt the weight of Qui-Gon's absence. His master had believed in the prophecy of the Chosen One, a figure to balance the Force. Without Anakin's discovery, that hope had faded, leaving Obi-Wan to wonder if the Jedi were fighting a losing battle. Ciri, brash and intuitive, sensed something Obi-Wan didn't. "There's a pull in the Force," she said during a briefing. "It's faint, but it's out there, like a star we haven't seen yet." Obi-Wan frowned. "Focus on the mission, Ciri. We can't chase feelings." But Ciri wasn't so sure. The Force was speaking, and she intended to listen. Anakin's chance came sooner than expected. Jabba announced a pod race in Mos Espa, a spectacle to celebrate a new trade deal with the Trade Federation. The prize, a fortune in credits. Watto, smelling profit, entered Anakin's pod racer, promising a cut if he won. It wasn't freedom, but it was a start. The race was brutal. Anakin's competitors included Sebulba, a Dug with a reputation for sabotage, and a host of desperate pilots. As the crowd roared, Anakin strapped into his pod racer, his heart pounding. Shmi watched from the stands, her hands clasped tightly. The starting signal blared, and the racers shot forward. Anakin's instincts took over, the Force guiding him through hairpin turns and past Sebulba's dirty tricks. Spectators gasped as he weaved through a canyon, dodging debris with impossible precision. In the final lap, Sebulba tried to ram him, but Anakin anticipated the move, banking hard and sending the Dug spinning into a dune. Anakin crossed the finish line, the crowd erupting. Shmi's eyes shone with pride and fear. Watto, ecstatic, slapped Anakin's back. "You're my golden boy now, Skywalker. Jabba's gonna love this." But Anakin's victory drew unwanted attention. Among the spectators was a hooded figure, Darth Maul, sent by Sidious to investigate the disturbance. Maul's senses locked onto Anakin, the boy's raw power radiating like a beacon. He didn't know who Anakin was, but he knew he was dangerous. That night, Anakin and Shmi counted their winnings. It wasn't enough for freedom, but it was a step. As they celebrated quietly, Cliegg Lars appeared at the shop, his face serious. "Anakin Shmi," he said, "I heard about the race. You've got courage, kid. But you've also got eyes on you now. Jabba's not the only one watching." Shmi's face paled. "What do you mean?" Cliegg hesitated. "There's a stranger in Mos Espa. Not a Hutt thug. Something worse. I've seen his type before. You need to be careful." Anakin's dreams flashed through his mind. The dark figure, the red blade. He shook it off, but unease settled in his gut. Far away, Maul reported to Sidious via hologram. "The boy is untrained but powerful. He could be a threat. Or an asset." Sidious's eyes gleamed. "Watch him, Maul. If he cannot be turned, he must be destroyed. The Force must serve our purpose." On Corusaunt, Siritachi meditated, her mind reaching across the stars. The pull she'd felt grew stronger, pointing to Tatooine. She didn't know what awaited, but she knew the Jedi had to act. As Anakin lay in his small room, staring at the stars through a cracked window, he felt a stirring within him. The galaxy was calling, and whether he was ready or not, his destiny was coming for him. The Mos Espa arena still buzzed with the aftermath of Anakin's pod racing triumph. Credits flowed into Watto's coffers, and the Toydarian's mood was uncharacteristically buoyant. For Anakin and Shmi, the winnings were a bittersweet prize, enough to dream of freedom, but not enough to buy it. Anakin's victory had also painted a target on his back. Jabba the Hutt, impressed by the young slave's skill, sent word through his enforcer Zero, Anakin was to race again, this time in a high-stakes event for off-world investors. In their cramped quarters behind Watto's shop, Anakin sat with Shmi, counting their share of the credits. The dim glow of a lantern cast shadows on the walls, mirroring the unease in their hearts. "Ani, this isn't safe," Shmi said, her voice low. "Jabba's races aren't games. People die." Anakin's jaw tightened. "I know, Mom, but every race gets us closer. One more win, maybe two, and we're free. I can feel it." Shmi's eyes searched his face. She saw the fire in him, the same restless energy that had always set him apart. But she also saw something new, flickers of anger, of desperation. She wanted to tell him about the strange dream she'd had of a light within him that burned too brightly, but fear held her back. The galaxy was vast and cruel, and Tatooine offered no protection for those who stood out. Outside, the desert night was still, but Anakin felt a chill. His own dreams had grown vivid, haunting. The dark figure with the red blade loomed larger, its presence a weight on his chest. Last night he'd woken to find his tools scattered across the floor as if moved by an unseen hand. He hadn't told Shmi. He didn't want to worry her, or admit he was scared. Darth Maul prowled the outskirts of Mos Espa, his black cloak blending with the shadows. The Force guided him, its currents pointing to the boy he'd seen at the race. Anakin Skywalker was no ordinary human. His speed, his instincts, they reeked of the Force, untrained but potent. Maul's orders were clear: assess the boy's potential, and if he could not be turned, eliminate him. Sidious tolerated no threats to his grand design. Maul's probe droids scoured the desert, gathering scraps of information. The boy was a slave, owned by a junk dealer. He lived with his mother, had no formal training, yet his mechanical skill was renounced. Maul's lip curled in disdain. A slave with such power was an insult to the Force's grandeur. Still, he sensed opportunity. If the boy could be broken, molded, he might serve the Sith. In a hidden canyon, Maul activated his holocom. Sidious's hooded form flickered to life, his voice a venomous whisper. "What have you found, my apprentice?" "The boy is strong, master," Maul reported. "His connection to the Force is raw, unrefined. He is unaware of his potential." Sidious's eyes gleamed, a diamond in the dust. "Test him, Maul. Push him to his limits. If he breaks, he is nothing. If he bends, we may have use for him." Maul bowed, his mind already scheming. He would draw the boy out, but provoke him and see what lay beneath the surface. On Corusaunt, the Jedi Temple hummed with a quiet urgency. Siritachi, Obi-Wan Kenobi's apprentice, sat cross-legged in a meditation chamber, her blonde hair tucked behind her ears. The pull she'd felt in the Force had grown stronger, a faint beacon calling from the outer rim. She couldn't ignore it, despite Obi-Wan's insistence on focusing on their mission to uncover Separatist activity. "Master, I know you think I'm chasing ghosts," Siri said, standing as Obi-Wan entered. "But this feeling, it's real. Something's out there, and it's important." Obi-Wan sighed, stroking his beard. "Siri, the Council has us investigating the Trade Federation's ties to the Outer Rim. We can't divert resources based on intuition alone." "It's more than intuition," she countered, her blue eyes fierce. "The Force is guiding me. If we ignore it, we're ignoring the will of the Force." Obi-Wan studied her. Siri's passion reminded him of Qui-Gon, whose belief in the Force's mysteries had shaped his own path. Qui-Gon's death at Maul's hands still haunted him, a wound that never fully healed. Perhaps Siri was right. Perhaps the Force was speaking. "Very well," Obi-Wan said. "We'll request a mission to the Outer Rim. Tatooine's a likely starting point. There's been chatter about Hutt activity there. But we proceed cautiously. The Sith are still out there." Siri nodded, a spark of excitement in her. She didn't know what awaited on Tatooine, but she felt the galaxy shifting, and she intended to meet it head-on. In the council chamber, Yoda and Mace Windu approved the mission, though Yoda's expression was troubled. "A disturbance, I sense," he murmured. "Great power, yet great danger. Watchful you must be, Obi-Wan." Back on Tatooine, Anakin prepared for Jabba's race. The event was unlike any Mos Espa had seen, with off-world sponsors, Trade Federation droids, and Corellian smugglers, adding a layer of intrigue. Watto, eager to impress, upgraded Anakin's podracer with parts from a crashed smuggler's ship. Anakin spent days tuning the engines, his hands guided by an instinct he couldn't explain. Cliegg Lars visited the shop again, bringing supplies for Shmi. His presence had become a comfort, though Anakin noticed the way Cliegg looked at his mother, kindly but with a hint of longing. Cliegg pulled Anakin aside, his voice low. "Kid, I've heard rumors. Jabba's got off-world is betting big on this race. Some say they're not just here for sport. Watch your back." Anakin frowned. "What kind of off-worlders?" "Hard to say," Cliegg replied. "But they're not the usual scum. One of them was asking about you, wanted to know who built your racer." Anakin's gut twisted. Cliegg's warning echoed the unease he'd felt since his last dream. Still, he couldn't back out. The race was his chance to prove himself, to get one step closer to freedom. The day of the race dawned, the arena packed with spectators. Jabba lounged in his private box, his bulbous eyes glinting with greed. Anakin strapped into his pod racer, the roar of the crowd drowning out his doubts. Shmi watched from the stands, her heart heavy. She'd seen a cloaked figure in the crowd, its presence chilling her to the bone. As the race began, Anakin surged forward, his podracer a blur. The competition was fierce. Sebulba was back, his vehicle rigged with new tricks, and a mysterious pilot in a sleek black racer matched Anakin's speed. The Force flowed through Anakin, sharpening his reflexes, though he didn't know its name. He dodged a plasma bolt from Sebulba's exhaust and pulled ahead, the crowd roaring. Unknown to Anakin, the black racer's pilot was no ordinary competitor. Maul had entered the race, disguised, to test the boy's limits. He pushed Anakin hard, clipping his pod racer's stabilizers in a narrow canyon. Anakin's machine spun, but he wrestled it back under control, his anger flaring. The Force surged, and his pod racer stabilized, defying physics. In the final stretch, Anakin and Maul were neck and neck. Maul's eyes burned beneath his hood, sensing the boy's power. He activated a hidden weapon, a disruptor pulse meant to disable Anakin's engines. But Anakin, driven by instinct, swerved at the last second, the pulse grazing his pod. With a burst of speed, he crossed the finish line first, Maul a close second. The crowd erupted, but Anakin's victory was overshadowed by a new sensation, a cold, malevolent presence watching him. As he climbed from his pod racer, he scanned the stands, his eyes locking on a cloaked figure vanishing into the crowd. That night, Anakin couldn't sleep. The race had left him exhilarated but unsettled. He'd felt something during those final moments. A power that wasn't just skill or luck. It scared him as much as it thrilled him. He slipped out to the shop, tinkering with a broken droid to calm his nerves. As he worked, a Hydra spanner lifted from the table, hovering in midair. Anakin froze, his breath catching. He reached out and the tool floated to his hand. His heart raced. This wasn't a dream. This was real. "Mom!" he called, rushing to their quarters. Shmi woke, alarmed by his urgency. He showed her the Hydra spanner, making it float again. Her face paled, but she nodded, as if confirming a long-held fear. "Ani, I've always known you were special," she said, her voice trembling. "But this is dangerous. You can't let anyone see." "Why? What is it?" Anakin demanded. Shmi hesitated. "I don't know, but there are stories. People with gifts like yours. They draw attention. Bad attention." Anakin's mind spun. He wanted answers, but Tatooine offered none. He resolved to keep his ability secret, but the galaxy had other plans. Maul reported to Sidious, his voice laced with grudging respect. "The boy is stronger than I anticipated. He resisted my sabotage and won through sheer will. The Force is with him." Sidious's lips curled. "Excellent! He is a prize worth claiming. Break him, Maul. Turn him to our cause, or ensure he never rises." Maul nodded, but a flicker of doubt crossed his mind. The boy's power was unlike anything he'd encountered. Breaking him would not be easy. On Tatooine, Obi-Wan and Ciri landed their ship in the desert, cloaked by night. The Force had led them here to a planet they barely knew. Ciri's senses tingled, drawn to Mos Espa. "He's here, Master," she said. I can feel him." Obi-Wan frowned, skeptical but trusting her instincts. "Stay sharp. If the Force is guiding us, the Sith may not be far behind." As they approached Mos Espa, Anakin worked late in Wada's shop, unaware that his life was about to change. The Force hummed around him, a symphony of light and shadow. In the distance, Maul's probe droids closed in, their red eyes glinting. The Jedi, the Sith, and the boy who could tip the balance were on a collision course, and Tatooine's sands would soon bear witness to their clash. Anakin's hands trembled as he set down the Hydra spanner that had floated moments before. The revelation of his strange ability had shaken him, and Shmi's warning echoed in his mind. "This is dangerous. You can't let anyone see." He wanted to dismiss it as a fluke, but deep down he knew it was more. The dreams, the instincts that guided his pod racing, the sense of being watched, it all pointed to something bigger than Tatooine's dusty horizons. In Watto's shop the morning bustle began. The Toydarian hovered near Anakin, his wings buzzing with excitement. "Big day, boy! Jabba's investors loved your race. They want you in another bigger purse, bigger crowds. You're making me rich." Anakin forced a nod, his thoughts elsewhere. The credits from the last race had brought him and Shmi closer to freedom, but the cost was mounting. Clig Lars's warning about off-worlders lingered, as did the memory of the cloaked figure in the crowd. He glanced at Shmi, who was sorting parts with a forced calm. Her eyes met his, and he saw her fear. "Mom, I'm going to the Lars place today," Anakin said quietly. "Clig offered to help with some repairs. Maybe he knows more about those off-worlders." Shmi hesitated, then nodded. "Be careful, Ani. Don't draw attention." As Anakin left the shop, he didn't notice the faint hum of a probe droid lurking in an alley, its red eye tracking his every move. Darth Maul, hidden in a derelict warehouse, monitored the feed. The boy's power was growing, and Maul's patience was thinning. Sidious demanded results, and Maul would deliver, whether through recruitment or destruction. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ciri Tachi moved through Mos Espa's crowded streets, their Jedi robes replaced with nondescript cloaks to blend in. The Force pulsed around them, guiding Ciri toward an unseen presence. She felt it like a heartbeat, strong and erratic, somewhere in the city's heart. "This place is a cesspool," Obi-Wan muttered, sidestepping a Jawa hawking stolen droid parts. "If the Force is leading us here, it's got a strange sense of humor." Ciri smirked. "The Force doesn't care about comfort, Master. It's here, I know it. A person, maybe. Young, untrained, but powerful." Obi-Wan's brow furrowed. Qui-Gon's belief in the Chosen One had once driven their missions, but without Anakin's discovery, that prophecy felt like a fading echo. Still, Ciri's certainty was hard to dismiss. "We'll start at the pod racing arena," he said. "The locals talk about a young racer, a slave, they say. If your feelings tied to him, that's where we'll find answers." They reached the arena where mechanics and gamblers milled about, preparing for the next race. Ciri's senses sharpened, drawn to a nearby junk shop owned by a Toydarian named Watto. She nudged Obi-Wan. "There, let's go!" Inside, they found Shmi Skywalker, her hands busy with a circuit board. Obi-Wan introduced himself as a merchant seeking droid parts, but Shmi's guarded demeanor had told him she wasn't easily fooled. Ciri, however, felt a spark in the Force, tied not to Shmi, but to someone close to her. "Your son," Ciri said, dropping the pretense. "He's a racer, isn't he? We have heard he's gifted." Shmi's eyes narrowed, her protective instincts flaring. "Who are you really? Anakin's just a boy trying to survive. Leave him be." Obi-Wan exchanged a glance with Ciri. "We mean no harm," he said gently, "but your son may be special. We're here to understand why." Shmi's heart raced. She'd feared this day, when outsiders would come for Anakin's gifts. Before she could respond, a commotion outside interrupted. A speeder bike roared past, followed by the unmistakable hum of a lightsaber. Anakin rode his battered speeder toward the Lars homestead, the desert wind whipping his face. Cliegg's farm was a few kilometers out, a place of honest work and quiet hope. Anakin liked Cliegg, sensed his kindness toward Shmi, but today's visit was about answers. Who were these off-worlders, and why did they care about him? Halfway there, a shadow crossed his path. A cloaked figure on a sleek speeder bike blocked the trail, its rider's face hidden. Anakin's instincts screamed danger. He revved his engine, veering left, but the figure matched his move, closing the distance. "Who are you?" Anakin shouted, his voice lost in the wind. The figure didn't answer. Instead, a red lightsaber ignited, its blade humming with menace. Anakin's breath caught. His dreams had come to life. He gunned the speeder, dodging as the blade slashed, narrowly missing his arm. The Force surged within him, sharpening his reflexes. He swerved through a canyon, the rider in pursuit. Maul's yellow eyes burned beneath his hood. The boy's skill was infuriating, his connection to the Force undeniable. This was no mere slave. Maul activated his comlink, signaling his probe droids to converge. He'd test the boy's limits, push him to break or reveal his true potential. Anakin's speeder skimmed a rock formation, sparks flying. He didn't know what this power was, but it guided his hands, kept him alive. Ahead, a narrow pass loomed. He could lose the rider there, or face him. Anger flared in his chest, hot and unfamiliar. He wanted to fight, to prove he wasn't prey. Before he could decide, a blaster bolt grazed his speeder, fired from a probe droid overhead. Anakin swerved, the machine sputtering. He was trapped, the rider closing in, droid circling. For the first time, he felt the weight of his own fear. Not for himself, but for Shmi, for the life they'd fought so hard to build. Obi-Wan and Ciri sprinted from Watto's shop, the Force alerting them to danger. Ciri's senses locked onto the same presence she'd felt before, now laced with panic. "It's him!" she said, leaping onto a rented speeder bike. "He's in trouble!" Obi-Wan followed, his lightsaber at the ready. They raced into the desert, guided by Ciri's intuition and the faint trail of a dust from Anakin's speeder. As they neared the canyon, the hum of a Sith lightsaber reached their ears, chilling Obi-Wan's blood. "Maul," he whispered, memories of Qui-Gon's death flooding back. In the canyon, Anakin's speeder stalled, smoke rising from its engine. Maul dismounted, his double-bladed lightsaber ignited, its red glow casting eerie shadows. "You're strong, boy," Maul rasped, his voice like gravel. "But strength without purpose is nothing. Join me, or die." Anakin scrambled back, grabbing a metal rod from his speeder's toolkit. "I don't know who you are, but I'm not joining anyone." Maul lunged, his blade slicing the air. Anakin ducked, the Force guiding him, but the rod was no match for a lightsaber. A probe droid fired, grazing his shoulder. Pain seared through him, but it fueled his anger. He swung the rod, aiming for Maul's head, but the Sith deflected it effortlessly, knocking Anakin to the ground. And as Maul raised his blade, a blue lightsaber ignited, blocking the strike. Obi-Wan stood between them, his stance steady. Ciri flanked Maul, her green blade humming. "Step away from the boy," Obi-Wan said, his voice calm but unyielding. Maul's eyes narrowed, recognizing Obi-Wan. "Kenobi!" he hissed. "You're too late!" The Sith attacked, his double blade a whirlwind. Obi-Wan and Ciri fought in sync, their blades clashing with Maul's in a blur of light. Anakin watched, awestruck, as the Jedi moved with impossible grace. The Force surged around him, urging him to act. He grabbed a rock, hurling it at a probe droid, smashing its circuits. Another droid fired, but Anakin rolled, the bolt missing by inches. Ciri glanced at him, sensing his power. "Get to cover!" she shouted, parrying Maul's strike. But Anakin didn't run. Something inside him snapped. Anger, fear, defiance. He reached out and the Force answered. A pile of loose boulders shifted, tumbling toward Maul. The Sith leapt back, avoiding the rocks. but the distraction gave Obi-Wan an opening. He slashed, grazing Maul's arm. Maul roared, retreating to his speeder. "This isn't over, Kenobi," he spat, his eyes locking onto Anakin. "The boy is mine." He sped off, probe droids trailing, vanishing into the desert. Obi-Wan deactivated his lightsaber, breathing heavily. Siri rushed to Anakin, checking his wound. "You're hurt, but you will live! Who are you?" Anakin stared at them, his mind reeling. "Anakin Skywalker, who are you? And what was that thing?" Obi-Wan knelt beside him, his expression softening. "We're Jedi, Anakin. That was a Sith. A dark warrior. He was after you, and we need to know why." Anakin's eyes widened. Jedi. The word carried weight, like the stories he'd heard in cantinas. "I don't know why. I'm just a slave. I fix things, race pods, but I did something back there, moved rocks without touching them." Siri's breath caught. "The Force. You're strong with it, stronger than anyone I've felt." Obi-Wan studied Anakin, seeing the raw potential Qui-Gon might have seen. "Anakin, you're not just a slave. The Force is a power, a gift, but it's dangerous without training. We need to take you to Corusaunt, to the Jedi Temple." Anakin shook his head, backing away. "I can't leave. My mom, she's all I have. We're saving to buy our freedom." Siri placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll help your mother, but the Sith won't stop. You're not safe here." Anakin's heart tore. Freedom was his dream, but leaving Shmi felt like betrayal. Yet the Sith's red blade haunted him, and the Jedi's words rang true. He nodded slowly. "Okay, but only if Mom comes too." Obi-Wan agreed, sensing the boy's loyalty. They returned to Mos Espa, where Shmi waited, her face pale with worry. Anakin explained everything. The chase, the Jedi, the Sith. Shmi's eyes filled with tears, but she saw the truth. Her son's destiny lay beyond Tatooine. "Cliegg Lars," Shmi said. "He's offered to help us before. He might know how to get us off-world safely." Far away in the glittering towers of Corusaunt, Darth Sidious paced his hidden lair. Maul's hologram flickered before him, detailing the encounter. "The Jedi have the boy, Master. Kenobi and his apprentice interfered." Sidious's eyes narrowed. A setback, but not a defeat. The boy is untrained, vulnerable. We will draw him to us, Maul. Sow chaos in the Republic and let the Jedi bring him to Corusaunt. Here we will shape him, or break him. Maul bowed, his rage simmering. He'd failed to claim the boy, but he'd have another chance. The Sith's plans were patient, relentless. In Mos Espa, Obi-Wan contacted the Jedi Council, requesting transport for Anakin and Shmi. Yoda's hologram appeared, his ears twitching. "Powerful this boy is. Dangerous he may be. To Coruscant bring him, but wary you must remain." As the Jedi prepared to leave, Cliegg Lars arrived, his face grim. "I'll help get you to a ship," he said. "But there's talk in the cantinas. Someone's hunting the kid. You need to move fast." Anakin looked at his mother, then at the Jedi. The galaxy was calling, and he had no choice but to answer. But as they boarded a smuggler's ship Cliegg had arranged, Anakin felt a chill. The Sith's eyes were still on him, and Tatooine's sands held secrets yet to be revealed. The smuggler's ship, a patched-up Corellian freighter arranged by Cliegg Lars, broke through Coruscant's atmosphere, revealing a glittering world of endless towers and streaming air traffic. Anakin pressed his face to the viewport, his breath catching. Tatooine's deserts were a distant memory. This was a planet of impossible scale, its spires piercing the clouds like blades of light. Shmi sat beside him, her hand on his, her eyes wide but wary. "It's huge," Anakin whispered. "How does anyone find their way here?" Obi-Wan, seated across from them, offered a faint smile. "Coruscant is the heart of the Republic, Anakin. It's overwhelming at first, but you'll learn its rhythms. The Jedi Temple will be your guide." Siritachi, piloting the ship, glanced back. "And you'll need to stay sharp. This place isn't as safe as it looks. The Force is strong here, but so are the shadows." Anakin nodded, still processing the events on Tatooine. The chase, the Sith's red blade, the Jedi's rescue. The Force, a word he barely understood, hummed within him, both thrilling and terrifying. He looked at Shmi, whose quiet strength anchored him. Leaving Tatooine had been her dream too, but he saw the uncertainty in her eyes. Freedom was new, fragile, and Coruscant was no Tatooine. The ship docked at a discreet platform near the Jedi Temple, arranged to avoid attention. Klieg's smuggler contact, a grizzled human named Dex, had ensured their passage was off the grid, but Obi-Wan remained cautious. Darth Maul's escape on Tatooine meant the Sith knew of Anakin, and Corusaunt was Sidious's domain, though the Jedi didn't yet know it. As they disembarked, Anakin's senses buzzed. The city's energy was electric, its people a dizzying mix of species and cultures. He felt the Force more clearly here, like a river flowing through the streets. Ciri noticed his reaction, her blue eyes sharp. "You're feeling it, aren't you? The Force is everywhere, but it's strong in you." Anakin shrugged, uneasy. "I don't know what I'm feeling. It's like the air's alive." Obi-Wan placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's a good start. Come, the Council awaits." The Jedi Temple loomed before them, its ancient spires a beacon of serenity amid Coruscant's chaos. Anakin's heart raced as they entered, the grand halls lined with statues of long-dead masters. Shmi followed, her presence a quiet reassurance, though she felt out of place in this world of mystics and warriors. Yoda and Mace Windu greeted them in the council chamber, their gazes piercing. Anakin stood tall, though his palms sweated. These were the Jedi of legend, and he was just a slave from the Outer Rim, or so he thought. "Anakin Skywalker," Yoda began, his voice soft but commanding. "Strong with the Force you are. Yet untrained, untested. Tell us, what seek you here?" Anakin hesitated, glancing at Shmi. "I want to protect my mom. I want to understand whatever this is inside me. Back on Tatooine, I moved things, felt things. I don't know how, but I know it's real." Mace Windu's dark eyes studied him. "The Force is a gift, but it comes with responsibility. You're older than most initiates, and your power is raw. Training you will be a challenge." Obi-Wan stepped forward. "Masters, I've seen his potential. He faced a Sith and survived. With guidance, he could become a great Jedi." Yoda's ears twitched. "Great, yes. But danger, I sense. Fear, anger. These lurk in you, young Skywalker. Master them you must." Anakin bristled at the word fear. He wasn't afraid. Not of the Sith. Not of this council. But Shmi's hand on his arm calmed him, and he nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes." The council agreed to test Anakin, assigning Obi-Wan and Ciri to oversee his initial training. Shmi would be given quarters in the temple, a rare accommodation, but the Jedi recognized her importance to Anakin's stability. As they left the chamber, Anakin felt a mix of hope and pressure. The temple was his chance to become more, but Yoda's warning lingered. In a hidden chamber beneath Coruscant's industrial district, Darth Sidious plotted. Maul's hologram flickered before him, the Zabrak's face etched with frustration. "The boy is with the Jedi, Master. Kenobi and his apprentice guard him closely." Sidious's lips curled. "Patience, Maul. The Jedi's trust in their temple blinds them. Skywalker is a spark we can ignite. His attachments, his anger, these are our tools. You will strike when the time is right." Maul bowed, his mind racing. He'd tasted Anakin's power on Tatooine, and the boy's defiance intrigued him. Breaking him would be a challenge, but Maul relished the hunt. Sidious turned to another task. As Senator Palpatine, he manipulated the Republic's Senate, fueling tensions between core worlds and the Outer Rim. The Trade Federation, under his secret control, escalated blockades, while rumors of a separatist movement spread. The Jedi were stretched thin, distracted, exactly as Sidious intended. Anakin's arrival on Coruscant was a variable, but one he could exploit. He activated a holocom, contacting a new ally, Count Dooku, a former Jedi now teetering on the edge of darkness. "Lord Tyrannus," Sidious said, using Dooku's Sith name. "The boy is here. Ensure the Jedi remain occupied. The Senate's unrest must grow." Dooku's cultured voice replied, "It will be done, my lord." "The Republic's fractures are deepening. The Jedi will not see the true threat until it is too late." Anakin's training began in the temple's sparring halls, where Ciri guided him through basic Force exercises. She levitated a small stone, instructing him to do the same. Anakin focused, his brow furrowing, and the stone wobbled before shooting across the room, embedding in the wall. Ciri laughed, a rare sound. "Not bad for a first try, but you need control. The Force isn't just power, it's precision." Anakin grinned despite his frustration. Ciri's confidence was infectious, and her lack of formality made him feel less like an outsider. Obi-Wan observed, noting Anakin's raw talent but also his impatience. The boy wanted to master everything now, a trait that could lead to greatness, or ruin. Outside training, Anakin explored the temple with Shmi, who marveled at its archives and gardens. She met with Padme Amidala, now a senator, who visited the temple to consult with the Jedi. Padme, unaware of the role Anakin might have played in her life in another timeline, took an interest in Shmi's story, offering to help her adjust to Corusaunt. Anakin, shy around the elegant senator, felt a strange pull toward her, though he couldn't name it. But not all was well. Anakin's dreams grew darker, now featuring Coruscant's spires crumbling, Shmi's cries, and the Sith's red blade. He woke one night to find his bed shaking, the Force reacting to his fear. He hid these incidents, fearing the Council would reject him. Ciri noticed his unease during a meditation session. "You're holding back, Anakin. The Force thrives on honesty. What's bothering you?" He hesitated, then admitted, "I keep seeing things. Dreams. A man with a red lightsaber. My mom in danger. It feels real." Ciri's expression grew serious. Visions are tricky. They might be warnings, or they might be your fears playing tricks. Tell Obi-Wan. We'll figure it out together. Anakin nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. Could he trust the Jedi with his deepest fears? Maul, lurking in Coruscant's Undercity, prepared his move. Sidious had ordered subtlety, so he targeted Anakin's vulnerabilities. Using his network of spies, Maul learned of Shmi's presence in the temple and Anakin's attachment to her. A plan formed, not to kill, but to destabilize. He dispatched a bounty hunter, a Wike named Score, to stage an attack near the temple, disguised as a random act of violence. Score's target was Shmi, but the goal was to wound, not kill, to push Anakin's emotions to the edge. One evening, as Shmi walked with Anakin through a temple courtyard, blaster fire erupted. Score, hidden on a nearby rooftop, fired a stun bolt, grazing Shmi's arm. She collapsed, and Anakin's world narrowed to a single point. Rage surged, and the Force answered. Nearby statues cracked, and Score's rifle flew from his hands, clattering to the ground. Obi-Wan and Ciri nearby rushed to the scene, lightsabers igniting. Score fled, but Anakin pursued, his anger blinding him. He reached out with the Force, yanking the bounty hunter from a speeder. Score crashed to the pavement, groaning. Anakin stood over him, fists clenched, the air crackling. "Anakin, stop!" Obi-Wan shouted, grabbing his arm. "He's down! We need him alive!" Anakin's chest heaved, his rage roaring with reason. Ciri restrained Score, her eyes on Anakin. "You okay?" she asked, sensing his turmoil. He nodded, but his hands shook. Shmi was safe, tended by temple healers, but the attack had shaken him. The Jedi interrogated Score, who claimed he was hired by a Hutt to target a random civilian. Obi-Wan suspected more, but without proof the trail went cold. That night, Anakin sat by Shmi's bedside, her arm bandaged. "I should have protected you," he whispered. Shmi squeezed his hand. "You did, Annie, but you can't carry this alone. Trust the Jedi. Trust yourself." Her words steadied him, but the attack had planted a seed of fear and anger. Someone was hunting them, and he wouldn't let it happen again. The council convened to discuss the attack. Yoda's eyes were grave. Targeted this was. The Sith, I fear, know of Skywalker. Mace Windu nodded. His power is growing, but so is his vulnerability. The attack was meant to provoke him, and it worked. We must accelerate his training, but we can't ignore the risk. Obi-Wan argued for patience. He's loyal, brave. His attachment to his mother is a strength, not a weakness. With time, he will master his emotions. Ciri agreed, but added, "He's hiding something. Visions, maybe. We need to earn his trust, or we'll lose him." Yoda sighed. "A test this boy is. For him, and for us. Watch him closely, Obi-Wan. The dark side waits." As the council debated, Sidious smiled in his lair. The attack had done its work, stirring Anakin's fear. Maul prepared for his next move, while Dooku's separatist rhetoric gained traction in the Senate, pulling the Jedi's focus away from Coruscant. Anakin, meanwhile, trained harder, driven by a need to protect Shmi and prove himself. But the Force whispered warnings, and the city's shadows grew longer. The Jedi Temple, once a sanctuary, now felt like a battleground, and Anakin's place in it was far from certain. Anakin stood in the Jedi Temple's sparring hall, sweat beading on his forehead. A training saber hummed in his hand, his blue blade ablur as he parried Siritachi's strikes. His movements were sharper now, honed by weeks of training, but his mind was a storm. The attack on Shmi replayed in his dreams, each vision darker than the last, Coruscant's spires falling, a red-bladed figure laughing, Shmi's lifeless form. He'd kept these visions secret, fearing the Council's judgment. "Focus, Anakin!" Ciri called, her green blade grazing his arm. "You're telegraphing your moves!" He gritted his teeth, pivoting to counterattack. The Force surged, guiding his strikes, but anger fueled them. Ciri sensed it, disengaging with a deft flip. "Enough!" she said, deactivating her saber. "You're fighting like you want to hurt someone. That's not the Jedi way." Anakin lowered his blade, breathing hard. "I'm trying, Ciri, but after what happened to Mom, I can't just let it go." Ciri's blue eyes softened. "I get it, but anger clouds the Force. You're stronger than anyone I've trained with, but if you don't control it, it'll control you." Obi-Wan Kenobi, observing from the sidelines, approached. "She's right, Anakin. The Force is a tool, not a weapon. Your mother's safe now, thanks to you. Focus on what you can build, not what you fear losing." Anakin nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. Shmi was recovering in the temple's guest quarters, guarded by Jedi, but the bounty hunter's attack had exposed their vulnerability. He felt the Council's eyes on him, weighing his every move. Yoda's warning, fear, anger, these lurk in you, echoed in his mind. Outside the temple, Coruscant buzzed with tension. The Senate, manipulated by Senator Palpatine, secretly Sidious, debated Trade Federation blockades and Outer Rim uprisings. Rumors of a separatist movement, led by the charismatic Count Dooku, spread fear. The Jedi were stretched thin, dispatched to quell disputes, leaving the temple understaffed. Anakin sensed the unrest, even in the temple's serene halls, and it fueled his unease. In a shadowed chamber beneath Coruscant's industrial sector, Darth Sidious gazed into a hollow map of the galaxy, its stars flickering like embers. Darth Maul knelt before him, his yellow eyes burning with purpose. The Zabrak had failed to claim Anakin on Tatooine, but the boy's arrival in Coruscant offered new opportunities. "The attack on the mother was effective," Sidious said, his voice a venomous whisper. "Skywalker's fear grows. Now we must push him further, draw him to the edge, Maul. Let him taste the dark side's power." Maul's fists clenched. "The Jedi. Guard him closely, Master. Kenobi is a formidable obstacle." Sidious's lips curled. "Then remove the obstacle. Strike at the heart of the temple. Chaos will loosen their grip, and Skywalker's emotions will do the rest." Maul bowed, his mind racing. A direct assault on the Jedi Temple was bold, but Sidious's confidence was unshakable. Maul would use Coruscant's Undercity, its labyrinth of tunnels and forgotten passages, to infiltrate the temple. He'd target Anakin, but Kenobi's death would be a bonus, a personal vendetta for Qui-Gon Jinn's defeat years ago. Sidious turned to another task. As Palpatine, he met with Senator Amidala, sowing seeds of doubt about the Jedi's ability to protect the Republic. Padme, unaware of Palpatine's true nature, respected his wisdom, but sensed a coldness in him. She'd grown close to Shmi, visiting her in the temple, and had met Anakin briefly. His intensity intrigued her, though she didn't yet know the depth of his destiny. Meanwhile, Count Dooku, as Lord Tyrannus, rallied separatist leaders on Raxus, promising a new order free of the Republic's corruption. His eloquence masked his allegiance to Sidious, and his actions kept the Jedi distracted, blind to the true threat on Coruscant. Anakin's training intensified, driven by a need to protect Shmi and prove himself. He excelled in lightsaber combat, his raw power surpassing many initiates, but meditation eluded him. Sitting cross-legged in a quiet chamber, he struggled to clear his mind, the Force a turbulent sea within him. Obi-Wan guided him, his voice calm. "Let go of your thoughts, Anakin. The Force flows when you're at peace." Anakin's jaw tightened. "How can I be at peace when someone's still out there hunting us?" Obi-Wan sighed, seeing Qui-Gon's stubbornness in the boy. "Fear's a path to the dark side. Trust in the Force, and in us. We're your family now." The word family struck Anakin. Shmi was his anchor, but Obi-Wan and Ciri had risked their lives for him. He wanted to believe in them, but the visions gnawed at his trust. That night he confided in Shmi, who listened with a mother's patience. "Ani, you're stronger than you know," she said, her voice steady. "But strength isn't enough. You need wisdom. The Jedi can give you that if you let them." Her words steadied him, but the Force whispered warnings. He felt a shadow approaching, cold and relentless. Ciri, meanwhile, sensed it too. During a patrol of the temple's perimeter, her instincts flared. She alerted Obi-Wan, who requested additional security, but the council, stretched thin, could spare few knights. "Stay vigilant," Mace Windu instructed. "The Force is troubled." Maul struck under cover of that darkness, slipping through Coruscant's undercity tunnels. His probe droids had mapped a forgotten passage beneath the temple, used centuries ago by smugglers. Clad in black, his double-bladed lightsaber concealed, he moved like a specter, and the Force cloaking his presence. His target was Anakin, but chaos was his weapon. He emerged in a lower temple corridor, disabling security sensors with a flick of his wrist. 2 Jedi guards patrolled nearby, their senses dulled by routine. Maul struck, his red blades igniting and silencing them before they could scream. Alarms blared, but Maul was already moving, a shadow among shadows. Anakin, restless, wandered the temple's halls, unable to sleep. The Force tugged at him, urging him toward the lower levels. He didn't know why, but he grabbed his training saber, its weight reassuring. As he descended, he heard the alarms and froze. The Force screamed danger. Obi-Wan and Ciri, alerted by the breach, raced to intercept. They found the fallen guards, their lightsabers igniting. "Maul," Obi-Wan said, his voice grim. "He's here for Anakin." Ciri's eyes widened. "He's close. I can feel him." Anakin reached the corridor just as Maul emerged, his red blades casting a hellish glow. The Sith's yellow eyes locked onto him, a predator sizing up prey. "Skywalker," Maul rasped. "You cannot hide from your destiny." Anakin raised his training saber, heart pounding. "I'm not hiding. Leave or you'll regret it." Maul laughed, a guttural sound. "Bold words, boy. Let's see if you're worthy." Before Anakin could respond, Obi-Wan and Ciri arrived, their blades clashing with Maul's in a furious dance. The corridor sparked with light, the Force crackling. Anakin watched, awestruck, but his instincts urged him to act. He reached out, the Force surging, and a nearby crate flew at Maul. The Sith deflected it, but the distraction gave Ciri an opening, her blade grazing his side. Maul roared, his fury unleashed. He force-pushed Ciri into a wall, stunning her, and turned on Obi-Wan, their blades locking. Anakin, rage boiling, charged, his training saber swinging. Maul parried effortlessly, but Anakin's raw power surprised him, forcing him back. "You're strong," Maul hissed, "but anger is your chain. Embrace it, and you'll be unstoppable." Anakin faltered, Maul's words striking a chord. The dark side whispered, promising power to protect Shmi, to crush his enemies. But Obi-Wan's voice cut through. "Anakin, don't listen. Stay with us!" Obi-Wan's plea anchored him. He stepped back, focusing the Force to lift debris, hurling it at Maul. The Sith dodged, but the temple's defenses were mobilizing. Jedi Knights arrived, their lightsabers illuminating the corridor. Maul, outnumbered, snarled and retreated, vanishing into the tunnels. The temple buzzed with activity as the Jedi secured the breach. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ciri regasped, shaken but unharmed. Shmi, guarded during the attack, rushed to Anakin, embracing him. "You're safe," she whispered, relief flooding her. Anakin hugged her tightly, but Maul's words lingered. "Anger is your chain." He'd felt the dark side's pull, its seductive strength. It scared him, not because he feared it, but because a part of him wanted it. The council convened. Yoda's expression grave. Bold the Sith have become. To strike here, a message. It is. Skywalker, their target remains. Mace Windu's gaze was stern. "Your power draws them, Anakin, but your reaction tonight, using anger, concerns us. The dark side is a path you cannot walk." Anakin's fists clenched. "I was protecting my mom, my friends. What was I supposed to do?" Obi-Wan intervened. "You acted bravely, but the Force requires balance. We'll work on it together." Yoda nodded. "Time you need, but time we may not have. Vigilant, all must be." Ciri, bruised but resolute, pulled Anakin aside later. "You did good tonight, but Maul's not wrong about one thing. You're powerful. Don't let him twist that into something ugly." Anakin nodded, but doubt festered. The Jedi offered wisdom, but the dark side offered strength. Which did he need more? On Coruscant's Senate floor, Palpatine stoked fear, proposing a military buildup to counter separatist threats. Padme Amidala argued for diplomacy, but her voice was drowned by panic. She visited the temple, meeting Anakin again. His intensity struck her, and she sensed his turmoil. "You look like you're carrying the galaxy on your shoulders," she said, half smiling. Anakin shrugged, shy but drawn to her. "Just trying to keep up. This place, it's a lot." Padme nodded. "It is. But you're not alone. Your mother's proud of you, and so are the Jedi." Her words warmed him, but the Force whispered warnings. Maul was still out there, and Sidious's plans were unfolding. Dooku's separatists declared independence, sparking skirmishes across the Outer Rim. The Jedi dispatched to maintain peace left the temple vulnerable. Anakin trained harder, mastering Force techniques and lightsaber forms, but his visions grew darker. He saw himself wielding a red blade, standing over Obi-Wan's body. The image shook him, but he hid it, fearing it was a prophecy. Sidious, in his lair, smiled. "The boy is nearly ours, Maul. One final push, and he will fall." Maul, hidden in the Undercity, prepared his next strike. The Jedi had thwarted him, but Anakin's anger was a crack he could widen. The galaxy's chaos was his ally, and Corusaunt would be the stage for Skywalker's breaking point. As Anakin stood on a temple balcony, gazing at Coruscant's endless lights, he felt the Force's dual nature, light and dark, hope and fear. The Sith were coming, and he wasn't sure if he could resist them. But for Shmi, for Obi-Wan, for Ciri, he'd fight. The galaxy's fate hung in the balance, and Anakin Skywalker was its fulcrum. Anakin stood on a balcony of the Jedi Temple, Coruscant's endless spires glittering below. The city's lights pulsed like a living thing, but he felt a coldness beneath its glow, a shadow that had followed him since Tatooine. His training had progressed rapidly, his mastery of lightsaber combat and Force techniques astonishing Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ciri Tachi. Yet his visions grew darker, more vivid, himself wielding a red lightsaber, Shmi's lifeless body, Coruscant burning. He'd hidden these from the Jedi, fearing they'd see him as a threat. Shmi, now fully recovered from the bounty hunter's attack, sensed his turmoil. She joined him on the balcony, her presence a quiet anchor. "Ani, you're carrying too much," she said, her voice gentle. "You can't fight the galaxy alone." Anakin's jaw tightened. "I have to, Mom. The Sith are still out there. If I'm not strong enough, they'll come for you again." Shmi's eyes softened. "Strength isn't just power, it's trust, love. The Jedi believe in you. I believe in you. Let that guide you, not fear." Her words stirred him, but the dark side's whisper was relentless, promising the strength to protect her at any cost. Maul's attack on the temple had shaken him, and his own rage in that fight had felt intoxicating. He pushed the thought away, focusing on Shmi's warmth, but the Force hummed with warning. In the temple, Obi-Wan and Ciri met with the Jedi Council. Yoda's ears twitched, his eyes heavy with concern. "Trouble in the Forces. Skywalker's power grows, but so does the dark side's reach. A choice he must soon make." Mace Windu's expression was stern. "Maul's attack was a warning. The Sith want him, and they're bold enough to strike here. We must protect him, but he must also prove his resolve." Obi-Wan nodded. "He's loyal, but his fear for his mother makes him vulnerable. We need to guide him through this, not push him away." Ciri added, "He's hiding something. Visions, I think. If we don't earn his trust, the Sith will exploit it." Yoda sighed. "A test, this is. For Skywalker and for us all. Prepare we must, for the dark side moves." Beneath Coruscant's Undercity, Darth Sidious orchestrated his endgame. His hologram flickered before Darth Maul, whose rage simmered after his failed temple assault. "The boy is nearly ours," Sidious hissed. "His fear's a crack we will widen. Strike at his heart, Maul. Take what he loves most." Maul's yellow eyes gleamed. "The mother, she is his weakness." Sidious nodded. "Yes, her loss will break him or turn him to us. Act swiftly before the Jedi tighten their guard." Maul prepared his plan, using Coruscant's criminal networks to stage a diversion. He hired a band of mercenaries, led by a ruthless Mandalorian named Jango Fett, to attack a Senate district, drawing Jedi away from the temple. Meanwhile, Maul would infiltrate again, this time targeting Shmi directly. If Anakin succumbed to rage, he'd be ripe for the dark side. If he resisted, Maul would kill him. As Senator Palpatine, Sidious fueled the Republic's chaos. He proposed an emergency military act, alarming Padme Amidala, who sensed his ambition. She visited the temple, meeting Anakin and Shmi, unaware of the storm approaching. Anakin felt a spark in her presence, a connection he couldn't name, but his focus remained on protecting Shmi. Count Dooku, as Lord Tyrannus, escalated separatist attacks, forcing the Jedi to deploy knights to distant worlds. The temple's defenses weakened, exactly as Sidious planned. The stage was set for Anakin's breaking point. The attack came at dawn. Blaster fire and explosions rocked the Senate Plaza, mercenaries clashing with security forces. Jango Fett's jetpack roared as he led the assault, his cold efficiency a match for any Jedi. The Council dispatched Obi-Wan, Ciri, and several knights to respond, leaving the temple guarded but vulnerable. Anakin, training in the sparring hall, felt a jolt in the Force. His saber faltered, and he dropped it, clutching his head. A vision flashed. Shmi, surrounded by darkness, a red blade raised. "Mom!" he gasped, sprinting toward her quarters. Shmi was in the temple's gardens, tending plants with Padme, who'd stayed to discuss Republic politics. Anakin burst in, his face pale. "Mom, we need to go. Something's wrong." Padme frowned. "Anakin, what's happening?" Before he could answer, alarms blared. Temple security reported a breach in the lower levels, near the same tunnels Maul had used before. Anakin's heart sank. "It's him," he said, grabbing Shmi's arm. "The Sith." Padme drew a concealed blaster, her senator's poise giving way to resolve. "I'm coming with you. Shmi's my friend, too." Anakin hesitated, then nodded. They rushed toward the temple's heart, where younglings and non-combatants were being evacuated. Jedi Knights moved to secure the breach, but the Force screamed danger to Anakin. He felt Maul's presence, cold and predatory, closing in. Maul emerged in a meditation chamber, his double-bladed lightsaber igniting. 2 Jedi guards engaged him, but he cut them down with ruthless precision, their blades no match for his fury. He sensed Anakin's approach, the boy's fear a beacon. Maul smiled, a rare expression. This was his moment. Anakin, Shmi, and Padme reached the chamber, escorted by a young Jedi Knight named Feroda. The sight of Maul froze Anakin, his visions coming to life. "Stay back," he told Shmi and Padme, drawing his training saber. Maul's voice was a low growl. "You've grown, Skywalker, but you're still a slave. To fear, to weakness. Join me, and I'll give you the power to save her." Anakin's grip tightened. "I'll never join you." Maul lunged, his blades a whirlwind. Anakin parried, the Force guiding him, but Maul's strength was overwhelming. Feroda joined the fight, his blue blade clashing with Maul's, but the Sith Force pushed him into a wall, knocking him out. Padme fired her blaster, but Maul deflected the bolts, advancing on Shmi. Anakin roared, his anger erupting. The Force surged, and the chamber's statues trembled, one toppling toward Maul. The Sith dodged, but Anakin pressed the attack, his saber strikes fueled by rage. Shmi's voice cut through. "Ani, don't! You're stronger than this!" Her plea pierced his fury, but Maul seized the moment, force grabbing Shmi and pulling her toward him, his blade at her throat. "Choose, boy," he hissed. "Her life or your pride." Anakin froze. The dark side's whisper deafening. "Kill him! Take his power! Save her!" His hand shook, the training saber humming. Padme aimed her blaster, but Maul's grip on Shmi tightened. "Don't!" Anakin said, his voice breaking. "Let her go. I'll do what you want." Maul's eyes narrowed, sensing victory. But before he could respond, Obi-Wan and Ciri burst in, their lightsabers igniting. The distraction broke Maul's focus, and Shmi elbowed him, slipping free. Anakin tackled her to safety, while Obi-Wan and Ciri engaged Maul in a furious duel. The Sith fought with savage grace, but the Jedi's teamwork overwhelmed him. Ciri's blade slashed his arm, and Obi-Wan's strike grazed his chest. Maul snarled, retreating toward a shattered window. "This isn't over, Skywalker," he spat, leaping into the night, vanishing into Coruscant's depths. The temple secured, Anakin knelt beside Shmi, tears in his eyes. "I almost lost you," he whispered. Shmi hugged him. "You didn't, Ani. You chose to protect, not destroy. That's your strength." Padme, shaken but composed, placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone, Anakin. We're all here." Obi-Wan and Ciri approached, their expressions a mix of relief and concern. "You did well," Obi-Wan said, "but you walked a dangerous line. The dark side was close." Anakin nodded, the weight of his choice sinking in. He'd felt the dark side's power, its promise of control, but Shmi's voice, Obi-Wan's trust, and Ciri's friendship had pulled him back. "I won't let it win," he said, his voice firm. The council convened, Yoda's gaze piercing. A victory this is, but not the end. The Sith, persistent they are. Strong you have proven, Skywalker, but stronger you must become. Mace Windu added, "Your attachment to your mother saved her today, but it's also a vulnerability. You must learn to balance it with the Jedi Code." Anakin stood tall. "I'll learn. For her, for all of you." Yoda's eyes twinkled, a rare smile forming. "Hope you bring. A light in the dark you may yet be." Sidious in his lair seethed at Maul's failure. "The boy resists," he hissed, "but his heart is not yet sealed. We will try again, Maul, when the time is right." Maul bowed, his wounds aching but his resolve unbroken. "He will fall, Master, I swear it." Sidious turned to his broader plan. The Separatist crisis escalated, and his military act passed the Senate, laying the groundwork for a clone army he secretly controlled. The Jedi, unaware, would soon face a war designed to destroy them. Anakin was a setback, but Sidious's patience was infinite. In the temple, Anakin trained with renewed purpose, his bond with Obi-Wan and Ciri deepening. Padme, inspired by his courage, vowed to fight for peace in the Senate, her connection to Anakin growing. Shmi, settled in Corusaunt, found purpose aiding refugees, her strength a quiet force. Anakin stood on the balcony again, Coruscant's lights now a symbol of hope. The Force flowed through him, light and dark in balance. He knew the Sith would return, but he wasn't the boy from Tatooine anymore. He was a Jedi, a protector, and perhaps the chosen one the galaxy needed. As he gazed at the stars, the Force whispered a promise, not of peace, but of purpose. The galaxy's shadows loomed, but Anakin Skywalker was ready to face them, his destiny no longer hidden but blazing like a new dawn. On Tatooine, Cliegg Lars tended his moisture farm, unaware of Anakin's journey, but proud of the boy who'd changed his life. In Mos Espa, Wada grumbled about losing his best slave, but the desert whispered of greater things. Across the galaxy, the Force stirred, its balance fragile but unbroken. Anakin's choice had saved him for now, but the Sith's shadow was long. The Republic's fractures would soon erupt into war, and Sidious's grand design was far from complete. Yet in the heart of Coruscant, a spark of hope endured. A boy from the sands, forged in struggle, ready to shape the stars.